Hey guys, Jay here. So today I wanted to do a headphone review. Now this week I had a lot of stuff going on and didn't get to spend too much time in my stereo setup. Usually I do speaker and stereo reviews, but I also want to bring back headphone reviews. As some of you may know, I actually started my channel doing headphone reviews. So let me know in the comments, yay or nay, on more headphone reviews going forward. But today, I wanted to introduce you to the Meze 109 Pro. This is a really well-built headphone, and maybe I've been just out of the game for a long while. I mean, I do have a headphone collection, but it's not as extensive as I had before. And maybe it's because of that, but I personally found this headphone to be really a standout in terms of build quality and sound quality as well. And there's quite a few things to cover about this headphone. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Now, this is not my first time with Meze headphones. In fact, way back when I used to review headphones way more often, I actually had the Meze Classic series as my personal own closed back set of headphones. But the headphone that we're taking a look at today is an open back set of headphones from Meze, the 109 Pro. And honestly, even just a few years back, the Meze headphones were gorgeous looking headphones. They were really on point with the aesthetic aspect of the headphones, at least in my opinion. But with the Meze 109 Pro, I think over the years, they really ironed out some of the little stuff and has really taken a big step in terms of, making everything come together, both aesthetics and sonic wise. So let's start off with the drivers. So it's using a 50mm dynamic driver, and the dome here that Meze calls the W-shaped dome is made out of carbon fiber enforced cellulose composite. It's said to be more durable yet lightweight than conventional dynamic drivers according to Meze, and that obviously helps to reduce distortion and unwanted resonances. Also, the torus surrounding the dome is composed of beryllium-coated semi-crystalline polymer, and it's about 22 microns thick. And this beryllium coat that's applied through what's called a physical vapor deposition, or PVD for short, increases stiffness and durability of the driver while still keeping the driver light enough for fast transient responses according to Meze. And these qualities are enhanced due to the corrugation on the torus that's exactly carved to 45.5 degrees. The drivers are encased in an aluminum frame and copper zinc alloy stabilizer, further increasing rigidity and further reducing resonance and unwanted distortion. And again, according to Meze, the spider-shaped structure and the acoustically transparent grille inside the ear cup expose the drivers from both sides, creating one of the most open patterns to date in the Meze headphones lineups. Now, the pads on these are the velour pads, and so it's not leather. And I find velour pads to be more softer, and especially on this headphone, it's quite comfortable. I really have no complaints with the pads itself. One thing I will say is that without these velour pads, actually this headphone may be less comfortable. So I don't actually suggest changing the pads to, let's say, an aftermarket leather pad per se. Now you can do that, but in my personal opinion, that will just make the headphone less comfortable. And we'll get into the reason as to why, starting with the headband. Now the headband is a self-adjusting headband, so there's no manual adjustments that you have to do. You just put it on your head and it just stretches with this elastic kind of band. And actually this mechanism is really convenient. Now I really hate manually adjusting each click on headphones, and this mechanism just totally gets rid of that problem. But it actually goes far beyond that. Because of this mechanism itself, it doesn't necessarily create hot spots on your head. You see, a lot of the other headphones that I've tried, like Odyssey headphones or HiFi headphones, those ones that have the manual adjustments, tend to, not all of them, but some of them will have that headband as a hot spot on your head, because that's where the pressure is and the ear cups will sit just right on your side. Now, I'm pretty nitpicky about the comfort aspect, and that's why I still use the Sennheiser HD600 on my desktop, because that one just feels lighter and more comfortable for myself. Now, personally, I found the Meze headphones to be comfortable because of this automatic adjustment, because the tension it creates makes the hot spots, or rather the pressure around your head, including the ear cups, all kind of evened out. So I don't feel necessarily more kind of pressure on my headband as opposed to the ear cup. It's all kind of equal amount of pressure. Now, with this being said, if you're coming from the manual adjusting headphones that I've described, that kind of has more pressure on the headband and less on the ear cups, then on the Meze, you can expect that there is a little bit more pressure on the ear cups than you might be used to, and less pressure on the headband than you may be used to with the headphones that you currently have. So that was my experience going from something like the Sennheiser HD600 or HiFi or Odyssey headphones that I've used in the past to the Meze 109 Pro. Now, one thing I will note in terms of the comfort aspect is that even though the ear cups have more pressure than you may be used to in the past with your headphones, personally, I found that it didn't take long for me to adjust to them because the Velour pads actually is very soft, like I said before, and it really helps to relieve some of that pressure, and hence why I said that if you change to maybe a leather pad, it may actually create more pressure on the ear cups than you might imagine and make it less comfortable. The Velour pads, I think, is really picked well for the purpose of this headphone and the comfort aspect, so I personally wouldn't change them. Now, if you're like me and you wear headphones for long periods of time on your desktop setups, then you might have, neck pains or headaches from heavier headphones weighing down on your head. And that's been my personal experience, and again, that's why I like the Sennheiser HD600 weighing in only at 260 grams or so. Now, the Meze is slightly more heavier than that at 375 grams. And of course, that extra weight is due to the extra care of materials that goes into this headphone. For example, the wooden cups. That's just absolutely gorgeous. This is black walnut, and I am absolutely in love with this type of wood headphone finish. And of course, many of the other design elements that actually is the backbone of this headphone. None of this is for aesthetic purpose only, but also the functionality of the headphone itself. Now, the stock cable that it comes with is nothing to really write about. It's just normal stock cables. But one thing that I'll say is that it's definitely tangle free. It doesn't tangle as much as other stock cables I've had in the past, and that in itself is a great feature to have as a stock cable. But if you want a fancier, higher grade cable, you might want to opt in for their premium package, which is currently on sale at the time of making this video. Now, also to help out my viewers, Meze has offered a free shipping coupon, so make sure to use the code in the description or on the screen here at checkout to take advantage of the free shipping. Now, in terms of the sound quality, the Meze 109 Pro is a 40 ohm headphone with a sensitivity of 112 dB per milliwatt at 1 kHz, making it a pretty easy headphone to drive. So whether you have a small, low-powered amplifier or a big, beefy powerhouse, you will have absolutely no problem driving this headphone. In fact, it got to pretty sufficient volume levels just using my iPhone. However, for the most part, I used my Burson Soloist Voyager headphone amplifier, the SPL Phonitor X headphone amplifier, and the Wu Audio Wah 7 headphone amplifier. And using these three amplifiers, I found that the Meze 109 Pro was a detailed, transparent, fast, transient, attack and decay kind of headphone. Now, once again, I'm coming from the Sennheiser HT600, and in comparison, I found that the Meze 109 Pro had a more uplifting, energetic tone to the sound, especially in the higher extreme frequencies, but also in the mid-range as well. And this was made apparent listening to tracks like Keith Don't Go, which the characteristic of these headphones made particularly more of a zing in the acoustic guitars in these acoustic tracks that to me sound more tonally like the real thing, as I've noted with Totem loudspeakers. And yes, the tonality between Totem speakers and this headphone is uncannily similar. After getting used to these headphones, going back to something like the Sennheiser HD600, in some tracks made it feel more congested and feel more compressed. And also, this transparent and open nature of this headphone made the vocals and piano sound sweet to me. It had all the details and nuances, every breath could be heard, and overall it wasn't bright, but just tingly, just sweet sounding to me. And that quality I was very pleased with, and I was very satisfied with the vocal presentation as well as the piano reproduction on these headphones specifically. For example, these qualities could be heard in tracks like Ain't No Sunshine by Eva Cassidy, and also I will note that this more uplifting tone to me added to the open back headphone experience. And of course, one of the advantages with an open back headphone in the first place is that soundstage, and on the Meze 109 Pro, I was pleasantly surprised by the soundstage presentation and overall the airiness really added to that spatial cue, and the soundstage presentation sounded open and really out of my head, and that to me was a pretty phenomenal experience. And this experience was especially enhanced in live tracks like Vultures Live in LA by John Mayer, and actually even more enhanced using the settings on the Phonitor X that I'll talk about later in this video. Now, while the immediate standout on these headphones are the transparency and the quite detailed presentation, the bass and the mid-bass is quite satisfactory, and perhaps why I don't particularly find this headphone to be fatiguing sounding, even though it has a more brighter uplifting tone than my Sennheiser HD600. I really have no problem listening to these headphones for long periods of time. An example of this experience can be heard in tracks like Muddy Waters, where the sub-bass can be heard with surprising authority than you'd expect. It really makes this track a pleasure to listen to with scale and dynamics that can easily impress. Or in tracks like Kissin' Blue, where its sub-bass and mid-bass qualities are in full demonstration throughout the track. Now, I must say the bass quality and the quantity is perfectly satisfactory for my purpose, but for those of you that are considered bass heads or those that want a substantial amount of bass, this probably isn't the headphone for you. Now, personally, imagining this headphone with more bass, I feel like it will take away from the transparency and the detailed presentation this headphone has, and for me, I think where it's at in terms of its tuning right now is a perfect balance between transparency, detail, and the bass extension and the bass amount. Now, the more lively, transparent, brighter tone of these headphones are a bit of a double-edged sword. And the reason I say that is because at low to medium volumes, everyday listening volumes, is perfectly fine, and like I mentioned, it's not fatiguing, at least personally for me. But when you crank up the volume, we all once in a while like to crank up that volume. In those cases, at loud volumes, it can get bright, it can get harsh, and it can get fatiguing quite quickly. And personally for me, I found this to be more true when using a solid-state headphone amplifier like the Burson Soloist Voyager. Now, don't get me wrong, this pairing has its own benefits. By far, it's the most clean, transparent, and airy, with no fatigue or brightness at low to reasonable volumes. But as I've said, at cranking louder volumes, it tends to get more fatiguing and brighter and harsher around those edges. While something like the PRO Audiophile 7 3rd Gen was a bit more forgiving, especially at higher volumes, but it didn't sound as transparent as the Burson, so it was a bit of a trade-off. My absolute favorite pairing with the Meze 109 Pro headphone has to be the SPL Phonitor X. By far, it had the most bass amount and textures and the presence there in comparison to the other pairings. While, it still wasn't as transparent as the Burson, but it still had that warmth, and especially cranking the volume, I found the SPL Phonitor X pairing with the Meze headphones to be more forgiving than the other pairings. With that warmth added and with that bass extension, I found myself enjoying the sound rather than finding myself, going like this because of the harshness. But I will say, it depends on the track. If you put on a bright track, even with the SPL Phonitor X, you will still experience some fatigue and some harshness along the tracks with the Meze headphones. And remember, we're talking about only loud cranking volumes. Again, normal listening volumes, I did not find this headphone to be overly bright, just slightly uplifting to a point where things felt more airy, detailed, and transparent, which to me is a good quality. Now, aside from the sonic pairing aspect with the Phonitor X and the Meze, the real reason I really like the SPL Phonitor X with the Meze 109 Pro is the crosstalk feature on the SPL. Now, while this feature I find isn't perfect on the SPL in that the effectiveness of this isn't quite realized by the end user and it varies from headphones to track, I found that with the Meze 109 Pro, it was able to take advantage of the crosstalk feature on the SPL way more than the other headphones I've tried thus far. It really made the already great soundstage even more soundstage. And personally, because maybe I'm more of a stereo guy now than I was a few years ago when I was into headphones more, I feel like the soundstage aspect is becoming way more important to me than back then. And listening to the Meze 109 Pro, I love that soundstage, but I wanted to enhance it even more. And the SPL Phonitor X with the crosstalk setting, especially using this setting that you see right here, this exact setting that I used after trying various different settings to kind of get that soundstage. But overall, I found this setting right here to really work well with the Meze 109 Pro. And of course, depending on the track, you're not gonna realize the effectiveness of this crosstalk feature as much, but on a lot of the tracks, I found that this actually worked out really well, where I felt that the soundstage went from being like over here to over here. And that is a rarity with headphones, at least for me. And with the Fonder X combination with the Meze 109 Pro, it felt like I was listening to a set of really good monitors, except the details were way better because it's right on your head. Overall, I found this headphone to be excellent. Now, I can't really speak to the value because like I've said, I've been out of the headphone reviewing game for a while. I mean, I still use headphones, I still buy headphones, I still have a collection. I use them daily, but I just haven't done headphone reviews in a very long time. So you let me know, should I do more headphone reviews? Now, it's not gonna take away from the existing speaker and component reviews I do for my stereo, but should I add more headphone reviews? Let me know in the comment section below if I should, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you guys in my future journey. I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Till next time.